Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, as always, Chase Sr. Hit me up, interact with me on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Sr. I love talking Niners. Coming up on today's show, we're going to break down some 49ers trade targets going into the November 2nd NFL trade deadline. But first, we have a little bit of a friendly competition going on here in the Chat Sports offices. Niners, of course, taking on the Bears in a must-win game, looking to end that 4-game losing skid on Sunday. And we have a Chicago Bears channel here at Chat Sports. Right now, they have 35,502 subscribers. The 49ers Report closing in on 43,000 subscribers. What I want to do going into Sunday is continue to distance ourselves from Harrison Graham and Chicago Bears now. So show some love to the channel, and let's just crush the Bears with subscribers as well as on the field at Soldier Field, and let's get this dub here at Chat Sports and in Chicago. Subscribe to the channel for the best 49ers news and rumors coverage. As I mentioned off the top, trade deadline coming up on Tuesday, November 2nd, and here's the situation with San Francisco. Sitting at 2-4 on the season, they've dropped 4 consecutive games. These 4 losses have been a different version of ugly in each one of these matchups, and I'm not sure if the 49ers are going to be buyers or sellers going into that aforementioned trade deadline. It really could depend on what the Niners do against the Chicago Bears. Now, Kyle Shanahan said on Monday, I'm not going to play my younger players just for the sake of playing our younger players. We're going to wait until we're out of the playoff picture to start the development of some of these young guys. So do you agree with Kyle Shanahan, and do you want the 49ers to buy or sell? Your opportunity to voice your frustrations and your opinion on this subject matter in the comment section right now. Type B for buy, type S for sell. Get those votes in right now in the comment section. Let's get to these 49ers trade targets. There are a lot of big names that all come at positions of need. Let's start off with a really massive name who I think could be a big part of the 49ers' present as well as their future and be a very elite player on the outside with this defensive secondary. That's the cornerback with the Miami Dolphins, Xavien Howard, who we've talked a lot about here on the channel in the past. The Dolphins are one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. They, like the Niners, are on a long losing streak. They beat the New England Patriots in Week 1, and since then, they've been an awful football team. So could they sell at the NFL trade deadline, and could they part ways with Xavien Howard? During the offseason, he requested a trade because he wasn't happy with his current contract situation. But in the offseason, he did get an adjusted deal, so maybe he's a little bit happier right now. The reason why I like San Francisco potentially being involved with trying to go after and lure Xavien Howard via trade, not only can he solve your issues in the secondary right now, he can be a part of this organization for the long term in addition to the short term as well, because San Francisco needs cornerbacks. And I think given the caliber of player that Xavien Howard is, his cap hit for 2021, it's only $12.78 million, and he still has 4 years left on that deal that he had signed a couple years ago. So he could be a part of this defensive core for a long time, team up with Nick Bosa, as well as some of the other players along this defensive line so that this Niners defense could get back to that 2019 form. We continue to stick in the secondary with Kyle Fuller now as another trade target. He has now been benched by the Denver Broncos. That's how bad he's been, which really comes as a surprise to me because he played under Vic Fangio when he was the defensive coordinator with the Chicago Bears, who's now the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and he had a lot of success back then. 2018, he made it to a Pro Bowl. 2019, went to a Pro Bowl again. Has some pedigree as a former first-round pick. But is Kyle Fuller, even if he did get benched and he hasn't played well this year, better than Josh Norman as well as Drake Kirkpatrick? My answer to that question is probably. So I'd put some feelers out there with Kyle Fuller. If you get him for a mid to late round pick, I'd kick the tires on that. Grade the 49ers secondary right now without Kyle Fuller, without an Xavien Howard. A, B, C, D, or F. No Jason Verrett either. It's been ugly at times. Let me know what you think of the status of the 49ers secondary. Today's 49ers Report brought to you by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. 125% deposit bonus if you enter that link, chatsports.com/49bet, as well as that promo code Niners125. What that basically means is you put $100 into your account using that link in that promo code. When you sign up, you get an additional $125 back. Now, I'm done betting on the Niners because they've cost me a lot of money this year because they've been an impossible team to bet on throughout the 2021 NFL season. So let's shift to the college football ranks. Maybe you want to put some money down on the Heisman Trophy odds. I think what's playing out in college football, so much parity, and the Heisman Trophy race really, really interesting because I'm not sure who's going to win it. Bryce Young, the leader right now of Alabama. The quarterback's been balling out at plus 160. Matt Corral, the quarterback for Ole Miss, at plus 240. C.J. Stroud got off to a bad start to the season. He's really rallied, plus 350. And then Kenny Pickett, who in a bad quarterback draft class might be selected first among all quarterbacks at plus 450. Get those bets in, chatsports.com/49bet. Enter the promo code Niners125. Odell Beckham Jr., next up on the docket. Now, an anonymous NFL executive last week had floated the idea of the Niners trading away Jimmy Garoppolo for Odell Beckham Jr. because of the health status and that shoulder injury for Baker Mayfield. But Case Keenum played a pretty good game on Thursday Night Football and is a very high-quality backup. So does that make this trade extinct now? Potentially. But Odell Beckham Jr. has been seldom used by Kevin Stefanski in that Browns offense, and the injury issues are a little bit of a concern. So I think that could affect his trade market. Last year, suffered a torn ACL. Right now, he's dealing with a shoulder injury, which also makes trading for him right now a little bit skeptical. Now, to get off to his NFL career, OBJ was putting up monster numbers with the New York Jets. 2014 to 2016, he got off to arguably one of the better starts of any young wide receiver in the history of the NFL. Maybe now Jamar Chase has something to say about that. These are his per-season averages during that span. 96 receptions per year, almost 1,400 yards, average yards per catch a little less than 16, almost 12 touchdowns per season. But the production the last couple of years in Cleveland has fallen off a cliff, especially this year. Now, didn't play the first early portion of the season coming off that ACL, but only 16 catches for 226 yards, average yards per catch at 14, 0 touchdowns. So he has a goose egg there. Peter King did talk about some of these OBJ rumors and him being included in a trade. He said this: first 3 years in the NFL with the Giants, 45 games, 35 touchdown receptions. The last 3 years in the NFL with the Browns, 28 games, 7 touchdown receptions. So with the NFL trade deadline coming up on Tuesday, it's logical to wonder if Beckham can be had. I'm sure he could, but would you want a player who has been hurt a lot, turns 29 in 2 weeks, isn't the explosive player for whatever reason he once was, and is owed $36 million between now and the end of the 2023 season when his contract expires? I don't think that I would trade for OBJ. What say you? Type S4, it'd be safe to take a chance. Type R4, it'd be way too risky. Sound off right now. Marlon Mack, another really intriguing trade candidate and trade target who we've discussed here on the channel in the past because the Niners have been said to have interest. Back several weeks ago, the Colts and Mack agreed to mutually seek a trade, but he hasn't been traded yet. Could he be traded leading into the NFL trade deadline or on that day? The reason why is Mack is behind Jonathan Taylor, who torched the Niners on Sunday Night Football, as well as Nyheim Hines, who's a really good dual threat back. Elijah Mitchell, no doubt, is playing well, and I like the value with where the Niners got him late in the draft, and I think he could be the future at the running back position with Raheem Mostert being in the final year of his contract. But with Marlon Mack, I think he could be an excellent complementary back, even if you want to move forward with Elijah Mitchell as well as Trey Sermon, who you drafted in the 3rd round. John Lynch went on KNBR the other day and was asked about Marlon Mack, and he went out there and said, look, this is coming from the source. We do our due diligence. We were in on Marlon Mack and might still be. He said this, quote, "You do your due diligence, and Colts general manager Chris Ballard and I are very good friends. We talk about a lot of things around the NFL trade deadline, which is after Chicago. That Tuesday, after next week's game, that Tuesday, as that gets close, is when we start to have those conversations, he basically said. You call around the league calls you, and you say, hey, we've got this guy, would you have any interest? Let's talk about it. So I think a lot of the reports are born out of that. What Marlon Mack did in 2019 I thought was very, very impressive, and he's been a productive player. Missed a lot of 2020 because of a torn Achilles, but here's a peek into what he's capable of. 247 carries a couple years ago, more than 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, average yards per pop at 4.4. He can also do a little bit out of the backfield catching the football. This year really hasn't been used a lot by Coach Frank Reich because Jonathan Taylor is having a breakout year, and Nyheim Hines is a really quality player. That's why Mack is trying to go elsewhere. 28 carries for a $101, average yards per touch at 3.5. I don't think he's shown any signs of regression coming off that torn Achilles, which is why I would be interested in Marlon Mack, especially if you can get him for some mid-round draft compensation or maybe even some late-round draft compensation. Those are some of the 49ers trade targets that I put together going into the trade deadline, but here's the deal at Chat Sports. We're all about audience interaction, so let me know a player that you want the 49ers to trade for and drop those names in the comment section right now.